So about 2 months ago, a brand called FunWhole reached out to me and offered to send me a set to do a review on, and it looked pretty great. It was this detailed wooden cabin with a yard and a cute little sheep. It also included an integrated lighting kit, and I thought it would look great in my LEGO city, so I sent them a reply. But I kinda waited a month to send that reply, and they were no longer promoting that set. Whoops. So they sent me their new Jack and the Beanstalk set instead. Now up to this point I've only collected LEGO, which is the industry standard, and Laws, which is also really great. So this set from FunWhole will be my first alternative brand that's LEGO compatible. I actually hadn't heard of FunWhole until they reached out, and it looks like they make a lot of lighting kits for various LEGO sets, so maybe you've already heard of them if you're into the lighting scene. But I'll be honest, their name, FunWhole, kinda makes me laugh a little bit. I thought it might mean fun for the whole family or something.
Nothing in life is fun for the whole family.
But they say that it means that with their lighting options, it allows you to have the whole fun with your bricks, both day and night. Although, for some reason, I usually just picture a mini golf clown. Now the box arrived a little beat up from shipping, but that doesn't bother me. And both cover images look good, showing that it has lights included with the set. Opening it up, we first see an instruction manual, and I'll show you that up close later and offer my thoughts about it. There's also the lighting kit that comes in various numbered pouches for the different components. And then of course we have the bricks that come in 4 big numbered bags. Alright, I'm gonna go build this thing and then we can see if it's worth trading the cow for. So here it is, the Jack and the Beanstalk set. I think it turned out pretty good, and there are some things that I definitely like about this set. But there's also a few things that I don't. The ground level has a small house next to some water, along with some dirt and a rocky area. And then obviously there's a huge beanstalk growing up right next to it. The beanstalk is a few different shades of green and lots of plant details all the way up. And then up in the clouds, we have the giant's infamous castle. It's a pretty detailed micro-scaled castle that's surrounded by various white bricks to represent the clouds. You probably noticed that the castle at the top is at a different scale than the house at the bottom. I think they were going for a perspective approach, where if you were at the house level, the huge castle would actually look pretty small, being so high up in the sky, and I think it works okay. My first thought was that I wish the beanstalk was a little taller. Twice as tall would have been great, but even 50% taller I think would have made a big impact. However, I think the set actually looks best up on a shelf. If it's displayed like this, where you kind of have the same perspective as someone on the ground, I think it looks pretty great. The height of the beanstalk isn't really an issue for me from this view, but taller's still better. Building the set went pretty smoothly, except for one section that I'll warn you about. The bricks themselves, while not official LEGO pieces, seem to be really well made and feel just like LEGOs, except the tops of the studs are smooth. They also have really strong clutch power, and I think they hold together even more than LEGO bricks. That is, except for these tall vines. These Technic-style pieces don't hold too well to the plates and are easily knocked over. I had one piece with a little dye discoloration, but it was hidden in the build, so no big deal to me. And the brick separator makes me laugh a little, but it works as intended. However, then you have this piece. This vine is the only piece I really had trouble with. Basically, the bar on the end is just slightly too big and won't fit in the holes. You can see here how it's stressing these pieces and deforming them slightly. And on this one, it was supposed to connect to the modified brick behind it, but I couldn't get it to go in, so I ended up using the spare round plate that was included. Now this is the part I wanted to warn you about if you build the set yourself. When I was trying to force the vine piece in, I ended up knocking out an internal gear, which was really hard to fix. I didn't want to unbuild the entire set, so I pulled out the front of the beanstalk and was barely able to get everything back together. However, then it was binding inside and I forced the crank too much and caused the track to come apart again. After fixing it for a second time, I was getting kind of frustrated, but I was able to get it back together. So it's not a huge deal, just be careful when you're attaching all the plant details at the end and make sure you don't mess up the inside mechanism because it's a pain to fix. When you put on these leaves, make sure the green pieces don't twist and knock off the guide rail that's inside, and you might just leave this vine piece off altogether. Now you're probably wondering what that internal mechanism even does. When I first saw it, I thought it might lift the castle and make it look like the beanstalk was growing, but I wasn't quite sure how they would do that. Well, it turns out it just moves this handle up and down. I think it's there so you can attach a minifigure, say Jack, and he'll be able to climb up and down the beanstalk, which I think is an okay feature. However, the set doesn't come with a minifigure. Now, most people probably already have loads of minifigs, so it won't be a problem. However, if this is your first set, that'll be a bummer. Personally, I'm not sure if the whole climbing up the beanstalk mechanism is even worth it, but I did have to fix it twice, so maybe that's why. I do see how people could like that feature though. Design-wise, I like these little trees, the detail and texture up the beanstalk, and the various clouds. The castle has a lot of great details for such a small scale. However, there are a few parts that are not really connected, like these minarets and this vine piece. One of my favorite parts is actually the waterfall on the backside that flows into the lake next to the house. Alright, now let's take a look at what y'all are all dying to see, the lighting. And I think this is where the set really stands out. It looks great when it's all lit up. This set has a total of 9 lights. 1 in the house, this searchlight on the corner, which reminds me of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 2 under the clouds, and 5 in the castle. Now this is my first experience with lighting Legos, so if y'all have any more insights, definitely let me know in the comments. But I thought it was a pretty easy process. The instructions show you when and where to install the lights while you're building the set. Now, if you were adding a light kit to an already built set, I imagine that would be harder. However, this approach was fairly easy. There are two types of lights. You have these little circuit boards that have a sticker on the back, and you just stick them to a plate. Those are on the searchlight and under the clouds. And then you have the ones that are wired into a piece, like the 5 that are connected on a single strand in the castle and the one in the house. The instructions are pretty clear on where to run the wires, and for the most part are pretty hidden. Then they all attach to this hub here at the bottom. I was a little nervous when attaching bricks on top of or next to the wires, but I just made sure not to press down too hard and kept checking them to make sure they were still working before continuing. Finally, they all plug into this battery box that takes 3 AA's. Easy peasy. You can probably plug this into a constant power source, and the instructions say to keep the power under 5 volts. I'll just be using the battery box though. So earlier I mentioned I wanted to show you all the instructions, and they're okay, but they have one main problem. They are way too small. They put multiple steps on each page, likely to minimize paper costs, which is fine. However, as you can see, or maybe can't see, they are just too small. Now, I'm not that old yet, but these make me feel like I need to run to Walmart to get some readers.
It's a tiny piece of paper.
And they only get smaller too. As the set progresses and gets bigger, the instructions zoom out to keep the whole set in shot, making it so that you can barely see anything. Now, I've made my fair share of instructions with my alt builds and mocks, and I can tell you that you need to stay zoomed in so that you can actually see what you're building. The instruction book says that there's a PDF version available and to contact them after purchase. I didn't try that, but you probably should. That way you could at least zoom in on each step. Either that, or go find a magnifying glass. I also noticed that there were some missing rotate symbols, which can cause some brief confusion. But there were some cool things about the instructions too. They have size callouts for some parts, which is great. Ever since childhood, my most loathed part about building Lego sets is counting the number of studs over and over and over. I also really like their progress bar updates every 25%. Now the big question, should you get this set? Well, let's see. The build had a couple issues, but overall was good. The instructions were annoying, but manageable. And the lighting looks amazing and was easy to install. So what about price? This set sells for $70 and has just under 1,000 pieces. Now, I was given this set to review, so I personally didn't buy it, but let's go look at some Lego sets for a quick price comparison. As you can see, there are some comparable sets at that $70 price, and then even more that are worse in value, in my opinion. However, this FunWhole set also includes a lighting kit, which is probably around $20 to $30. So if you compare it to some of the $40 and $50 sets, I think it starts to look like a decent value. Also, I just noticed that on their Amazon store, there's a coupon for $20 off, which brings the price of this set down to $50. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link for you in the comments below. But again, should you get this set? Well, like any set, I think it mainly comes down to whether or not you like it and think it looks cool. And I bet you'll be able to decide that better than I can for you. I will say though, it does look good lit up.